These are good measurements. These are important measurements when you're drawing a portrait. It's gonna help you out. Hey guys, I want to give you a tutorial today on how to draw a face. This is going to be very beginner friendly. It's something that I've learned a long time ago when I first started learning how to draw portraits. So it's not going to involve any planes of the face, anatomy, skeleton structure, anything like that. We're not going to talk about that today because I want to keep this very simple. We're just going to cover the basic measurements that you need in order to draw a believable face. A quick disclaimer, I'm not a certified art teacher by any means, but this is just a method that I've used all the time, and I find it to work really well for me, so I wanted to share it with you guys as well. So yeah, with that being said, let's jump into this really quick tutorial that I put together for you guys. We're gonna break it down into individual steps, and it really shouldn't take too long. So as you can see on the screen here, step number one, we want to find the shape of the cranium and the center line. So what the cranium is, it's the top part of your skull that holds your brain. It's like this big egg-shaped container that holds everything that you need in order to think. Now, since we're talking about the portrait from a front view, we're going to be seeing a very round shape for the cranium. So we're going to be doing a bit of a circle to mark that down. That's the top of the head. And then we're going to draw a center line down straight through it. The center line is going to be very important because if your head is tilted on a different angle, that center line is going to follow the center of your face. So it's going to move accordingly. But since we're looking at it from the front, the center line is going to be dead center. Step number two, we're going to find the horizontal center line this time for this sphere. And the outermost points of this sphere are going to attach down to the shape of the jaw and merge down into the chin. And the chin is going to come to a point at the end of that center line, unless your character's face is very uneven. In steps 3 and 4, we're going to be looking for the horizontal guidelines. What this means is we're going to be finding horizontal lines that tell us where things are going to go on the face. So the first thing we're going to look for is the hairline. That's the horizontal line that marks where your hair meets your forehead. Pretty self-explanatory. The next thing we want to look for is the brow line. The brow line is the line that connects your two eyebrows and marks where they're going to sit on the face. And last but not least, we're going to look for the nose line. The nose line is at the very bottom of the nose. It's going to mark where your nose actually ends. So it seems pretty simple so far, but one thing you want to keep in mind is the measurements of the distance between these lines, because oftentimes on a proportional human being, you're going to get pretty equal distances between the brow line, the hairline, as well as the nose line and the brow line, and the chin and the nose line. So think like the distance here to here to here are all very similar in length. Now from person to person, you're going to get a little bit of variation. I think the distance between my nose line and my chin is quite a bit longer than the other ones because I got a big chin. But usually it's a rule of thumb to keep in mind that these three vertical distances are going to be quite similar to one another. So once we've set out these three main components, we found the hairline, the brow line, the nose line, as well as the three distances in between them, we can go into step 4 where we're going to set down the horizontal markers for the eye line as well as the mouth line. So the eye line refers to the line that's going to go through your eyes, and ideally it's going to connect the inner corners of the eyes, and the mouth line is going to obviously occur between the nose line and the chin, and usually it's a little bit above just the halfway point between the nose and the chin. But yeah, to keep it really simple, we're just talking about the measurements, right? I'm not going to mention anything about the planes of the face or the anatomy or the muscle structure, anything like that, because that's like so very similar to how we broke down steps 3 and 4 into horizontal guidelines. We're going to break down steps 5 and 6 into vertical guidelines. Now, usually the first thing that I like to do for this stage is I like to find the corners of the eyes. So in this stage, we're going to plant the corners right on the eye line there. So the inner corners of the eyes, the outer corners of the eyes, usually the distance between the two eyes is the same length as an individual eye. Once again, this varies slightly from person to person, so you're going to have to look at the subject a little bit, but as a rule of thumb, usually these three spaces are going to be equal in between. So a good way to gauge whether or not your character looks anatomically correct is to look at the spaces between the eyes. Sometimes if you have a little bit too much, it can look very awkward, and if you have too small of a space, the face can look very cramped, and it can also again look very awkward. I mean, nothing against people who are built different, but just as a general rule of thumb. And then once we've lined this up, we've got the three equal distances for the eyes, we can then start going into the nose as well as the mouth. So for the vertical nose lines, we want to look for the outermost edges of the nose. That's like right there. Sometimes it can be a little bit hard to gauge, but a good way that I like to use in order to see where the nose actually is going to end is to match it up to the inner corners of the eyes. Most of the time, the outer edges of the nose will line up with the inner corners of the eyes. So that's a relationship you could use to determine where that nose is going to end. And then based on that same logic, you could also find the corners of the mouth. So that about just covers all of the really important elements that we want to nail down. And moving on to step 7 and 8, this is more of a refinement stage. In step 7, we're going to be removing a little bit of the guidelines. We're going to start adding in some of the shapes for the facial structures. And this stage is a really good way to gauge whether or not your measurements actually look correct, because you still have the guidelines in there somewhat. And if you do need to fix anything, you could easily do it. But as you can see, I've replaced the middle section of the eye line with the shape of the eye itself. And I've also added in some of the basic shapes for the eyebrows, carved out the hairline based on where I knew it was going to start. The nose ends right here at the nose line. And I've replaced the mouth line with a very basic shape of the mouth. Okay, and something that I forgot to talk about are the ears. Why are ears so forgettable? Usually what I like to do to position the ears is the bottom of the ears tend to end around where the nose actually ends, and the top of the ears tend to end where the eyes actually start. Just again, really quick rule of thumb, really easy measurement there. Just keep in mind the relationship between the different facial features. Honestly, when in doubt, just give your character long hair and cover up the ears. But yeah, that's about it for step 7. We're basically putting in the facial features, seeing whether or not it works, and seeing whether or not our measurements are accurate. So now when we get on to step 8, this is the stage where we are actually refining everything that we've put down so far. So what you see here is once I'm confident with some of the basic measurements that I saw from step 7, I erased all the guidelines, I made some refinements to the overall shape, and then I added in, you know, some of the small details like the fold in the eyes, the eyebrows, the pupils, you know, some of the details on the lips as well. And from this stage, I think you got a portrait that you could easily start to render and work with. And step number 8, just do the rendering and you're good. No, but in all seriousness, I wanted to just give this video to you guys to get you started. If you're a beginner, if you're new to portraits, these are some of the measurements that you really want to look out for when you're drawing a face. Again, I'm not diving into the planes of the face. I'm not talking about the anatomy in any great lengths or details. I'm just giving you guys some of the basic measurements that really helped me out when I was starting to do portraits. And these are measurements that I still use to this very day. So yeah, very quick video, a lot of tips here. Hopefully I can get you guys started on your own portraits as well. And if this video has been helpful for you, I would really appreciate if you would, you know, leave a comment, share the video with your friends, or leave a like. Anything helps. But thank you so much for watching this video. And if you want to see more in-depth tutorials, like we're talking like an hour long, where I really break things down, I do those over on my Patreon. But this was more of a quick video to get you guys started. That's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys. And other than that, I'll see you guys on the next video. I usually hate doing step-by-steps because it's so hard to apply step-by-steps onto different scenarios, because I think what matters more is like understanding why things happen the way they happen, understanding the reasoning behind it. But for this video, we're just talking like fundamental measurements that you should probably know before starting portraits. So I think breaking it down in this way should be okay. Yeah, and if you're drawing a face from different angles, some of these things still apply. This is the nose and the chin. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's about equal. And a small forehead. That explains a lot. No thoughts, head empty. And the distance between the eyes. Yeah, that's about right. Yep, that's about right. See? It works. These are good measurements. These are important measurements. Keep these in mind when you're drawing a portrait. It's gonna help you out. And my forehead is small.